We're now recording.
Good evening, and welcome to this digital forum for the candidates running for Minnesota Senate District 38. This forum is sponsored by the White Bear Lake Area League of Women Voters. My name is Florence Sprague, and I will be the moderator for this forum. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters Roseville area and a resident of Maplewood. Love them or hate them, I won't get to vote on these candidates. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, volunteer political organization dedicated to the development of an informed and engaged electorate. We never endorse a candidate or party. Our members, both women and men today, do study issues and take positions after a discussion upon which we may then take action. We believe that the success of our communities depends on the values, knowledge, and commitment of our elected officials. The goal of this forum is to allow the public to learn more about the views, opinions, and commitments of people running for elected office in Minnesota so that they can make informed decisions. The opinions expressed in this forum are those of the candidates and not of the League of Women Voters. Our sponsorship of this forum does not constitute an endorsement of any candidate. To protect the health of the candidates, the volunteers, and you, the voters, our forums have gone digital this election season. Hence, this forum is not open to the public or being live streamed. It will be recorded and posted on the White Bear Lake Area LWV YouTube site and its Facebook page for viewing by the voting public. The candidates were sent the ground rules, and I'm sure that we will have a civil and respectful conversation. Opening and closing statements will be a minute and a half. Responses will be a minute and closings will be a minute. Questions have been emailed in by community members and screened to ensure that they are applicable to all candidates, are not personal in nature, and are relevant to this forum. Likewise, the candidates should always speak to their own positions and opinions, not their opponents. All questions become the property of the League. With that, let me introduce the candidates. Two men are running for the District 38 Senate seat, Roger Chamberlain and Justin Stofferahn. We will now begin with opening statements. Again, 1.5 minutes. Going in reverse alphabetical order, we will begin with Justin Stofferahn.
Well, thank you, Florence, so much. Thank you to the White Bear Lake Area League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, for Senator Chamberlain for participating, and to all of those out there who will eventually watch it. My name is Justin Stofferahn. I live in White Bear Township with my wife, Marissa, and our 2 young children, 5-year-old Freddie and 10-month-old Verity. And I spent my career advocating at a state and federal level on behalf of workers, small businesses, and taxpayers. I'm in this race because I believe very passionately in state government's ability to create economic opportunity for people. And that's in part because it's my own personal story. I grew up with my mom who lived paycheck to paycheck, and no one on her side of the family had ever gone to college. But I got that opportunity, not because she had a lot of money sitting around or lots of connections, but because of Pell Grants and state grants, because policymakers made the decision to invest in the potential of a kid like me from a family like mine. And I believe that when Minnesota is at its best, it's when we're investing in the potential of our greatest asset, our fellow Minnesotans. And that those investments in education and healthcare and protecting the environment are the reason that we're leaders in workforce and a range of other things, and that it points forward how we can tackle our state's deep racial inequities as well. So I'm excited to take these questions and participate.
Thank you. Now to Roger Chamberlain for his opening statement.
I'd also like to thank the League for sponsoring the debate again. Had a little email trouble, but we got it done. So I'm glad that you sponsored it and that we are here again to share some thoughts and ideas. I am humbled and honored, and always have been, to serve the people of this district and in addition to the people of this state. I live in Lino Lakes. I have, with my wife, Annette, been here 16 years. Have 2 grown children, and we are happy to report a 6-week-old grandchild, which is just an amazing thing. It's wonderful. I'm in this because I'm grateful for what we've been blessed with, all of us, and hopeful to bring that to others as well. Now, there are different ways to get there, and I believe the best way for us to get there is to simply empower people, to recognize that we're all unique, that we're all imperfect, and that we're perfectly unique and perfectly imperfect, and to empower people, free-thinking, free-spirited people. And when we do that, great things will happen. And I believe we do that by lifting restrictions and doing whatever we can to help them along, building that framework for them to be successful and thrive.
Thank you. We will now go to the question and answer portion of the forum. Again, each speaker has a minute for his response, and then there's an optional 30-second amount of time if they wish to respond to something else in the responses. First question will begin with Roger Chamberlain. Do you believe the human activities which increase the amount of greenhouse gases are a major factor in climate change? And what policies should the state be adopting to mitigate the effects of climate change?
I believe certainly we have an impact on the environment. We have to always be conscious of that impact. And we have come a long way in the last 50 years. I remember as a child watching what happened to our environment, and great progress has been made. Minnesota makes great investments in our environment and making sure we protect our environment. Probably over $1 billion a year, $600 million alone in the legacy amendments. I for one, was authored with the help of citizens, bipartisan work to get the ban on the cancer-causing chemical TCE at water gremlin. So we are committed to the environment and clean water and clean air. Now, how can we get there? I think we have a smart combination of alternative energies, solar, wind, natural gas, smart nuclear, but we have to be able to maintain. When it gets cold up here, we have to maintain our ability to heat and to get things done. So our economy and people's lives depend on it.
Thank you. And on the same question, Justin Stofferahn.
Thank you. Yes, to that question, to the initial part of that question. I'm fortunate enough to be able to work on some of these issues in my professional life. I work for an organization called the Blue-Green Alliance at the intersection of how we can tackle climate change and also create good manufacturing, clean energy jobs in the US. So I think some of our economic competitiveness as a state and as a country depends on taking action on this issue. Things like increasing our renewable energy standard, passing Clean Energy First are some of the measures that the legislature can take to put Minnesota in a position to harness the power of the green economy and create opportunity for folks.
Thank you. And now, since we're reversing order, the next one will begin with Justin. In the same vein, please describe the policies you would promote to ensure clean air and water for all, as opposed to climate change, Justin.
Absolutely. So I think that the work that has come out of the issues with water gremlin in White Bear Township and the package that Representative Wozlowick has put forth point in the direction of how to tackle some of these issues, providing the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency with additional authorities to go after polluters, increasing penalties, increasing enforcement staff, those sorts of, and making some of these permits a little more stringent are ways to protect clean air and clean water and make sure that families can count on it, not just hope for it.
Thank you. Same question to Roger Chamberlain.
Yeah, so again, water gremlin. Two problems with water gremlin. One was water gremlin was not a good manufacturer at the time. They did a poor job at doing what they were doing. So the MPCA finally caught them. One of the problems was the MPCA didn't catch them for a long time. So both had some responsibilities. I believe the MPCA we need to know what we need to do at the MPCA so that sort of thing doesn't happen again. Secondly, as I mentioned previously, we spend a lot of money and invest a lot of money in clean water, buffer zones, through the environmental, through the Department of Natural Resources, lake management. You know, we worked closely with the DNR and others to manage the White Bear Lake problem. So there's a lot we do. We're doing good. We're making progress, and we're going to keep our eye on it.
Thank you. And I apologize, I didn't give you the chance to add any additional comments on the, so you've got that option for both the first two questions, global climate change and clean water and air. Any supplement? No? Okay. Yep. I will go on. Oh, sorry, Justin, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Florence.
You're very small when I have my other thing.
Just one quick additional comment on clean water is that clean water infrastructure, wastewater infrastructure, particularly getting either through a bonding bill or I know there are other groups working on other revenue streams, the lottery, that sort of thing is very important. Lino Lakes, I think, in fact, is going to need a new wastewater treatment plant in the next 5-10 years. So.
I got one thing to add to that. One thing we did look at was smaller wastewater treatment plants in regional areas. I've talked to the DNR and Met Council about this. There are ways to do it. It takes a little bit of effort and time, takes years, but I think if it continues to grow up here, we need to do something like that.
Okay. One more related question, this one beginning with Roger. Do you support Governor Walz's Clean Car campaign for better mileage standards and more dealer options for electric cars and hybrid models? This campaign would not affect consumer choice for gasoline, diesel, or electric vehicles.
I believe it's not a good idea. We would partially be relinquishing some of our authority over to another state's agency. So it's not a good idea. Minnesotans are doing good. We're doing good in the state. We're making progress. They're giving choice. More people are buying electric cars. Mandating that sort of thing is going to be extremely harmful to a lot of people and costly. So no, short answer is no. We can find other ways to get this done and make sure we have clean air and clean water. Hydrogen vehicles. Why do we have to just, electric cars have a lot of batteries. And Michael Moore just had a piece on the Planet of Humans. They're stunned at how many batteries, how much waste there is in those vehicles. So we cannot have all electric cars and hope to survive if we just have wind and solar. So there are good ways we can get to this, but his plan would not be good for the state of Minnesota and the citizens.
Same question to Justin.
Yeah, so I'd have to take a closer look at some of the specific details of the governor's plan, but I think, you know, utilizing policy to encourage ownership of electric vehicles and making investments, particularly in innovation that can, you know, get us to a cleaner transportation system are absolutely things that we should be looking at, and again can position us economically as a state that leads in this area.
Florence, just one quick addition.
Yes.
Yeah, so you know, nobody's opposed to clean air. We all like it. And it's gotten a lot better over the years. We're doing good, but you know, we should not eliminate things like natural gas vehicles or hydrogen vehicles along with everything else. Those are things should be considered too.
Okay, Justin, any additional? No.
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Yes. Okay. Moving on to a different area. The whole country, and Minnesota especially, faces a reckoning with racism and racist policies. How will you as a white man help to bring about equity and justice in Minnesota's law enforcement? And this one begins with Justin.
Yeah, so I think it begins with listening to people of color throughout the district and their experiences, both in this issue and a host of others. I know I've really appreciated, for example, being able to meet with the new Somali families moving into the landings of Lexington, in the city of Lexington, and gathering their experiences and being able to bring that. I mean, that's the role of legislators, right, is to be able to hear those issues. Moving forward, trying to continue forward on the Posse Caucus, the Person of Color and Indigenous Caucus at the legislature, the policing reforms that they've been exploring as well is another key piece.
Thank you. And to Roger.
Hi, yeah, so as you're aware that during the July special session, we passed almost unanimously passed a bill, I believe was unanimous, for addressing some of the law enforcement issues, training for mental health, training for cultural differences, changes in training, board makeup for the post-board standards board, also banning chokeholds, and duty to act, to report and intervene in cases where the use of force is criteria and is being violated. So there's a lot of things we can do, but in the end, look, police officers and moms and dads, brothers and sisters, neighbors live in the community. Most people trust their local law enforcement because they're professionals, do a darn good job. There's always something we can do. Can't solve all problems, but we can certainly work to create a framework where everybody is working together to solve these problems.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Okay. Again, another direction. Residents of District 38 have seen taxes increase to fund schools because of a lack of other revenue streams. We are also seeing unusual expenses and challenges created by COVID-19. How will you fund education to ensure a good foundation for all of Minnesota's children?
Who first, Florence?
Roger goes first.
Okay. So several things. I have for several years now, 2 years, proposed equalization reform. And if you're not familiar with that, it's equal funding for schools, districts with a lower property wealth. It's been turned upside down, and districts across the state can benefit from that. I will not give up on that. It would benefit the districts in this community significantly. So keep working on that. Secondly, I meet often with the school superintendents and staff and others and teachers. We need to break down a lot of walls and barriers for these teachers and educators. One way to do that is working on the literacy and dyslexia issues that we've been bipartisan work on that, which will help reduce costs as well. And finally, the COVID funding. The schools received a chunk of money. Each district was allocated a chunk of money from the federal COVID CARES dollars. So there's some backup there. Equalization will help, breaking down walls, and other things to reduce the costs.
Thank you. Justin, education funding.
Yeah, well, so our school districts in Senate District 38 and school districts around the state have seen per student state funding decline over the last 20 years when you factor in inflation. And we need to fund our schools. The thing that has often set us apart as a state is our investment in education, in our schools. There are economists that have found that our competitiveness as a state has been tied to that strong investment. And so we need to make sure that it's a priority in our budget and fiscal decisions.
Just one quick addition, Florence, Chamberlain.
Yes.
Yeah, so, well, I just know they have not, the schools receive more money now than they ever have, even adjusted for inflation. The data and all the charts show that. Equalization funding will help significantly. And look, we can get to 90% literacy, 90% literacy proficiency in the state. I had deals with, before COVID, we had deals with the union, the school board, the department, and parents to do just that. So we can get there. We already spend a lot of money, and we need better investment to do it smarter.
Justin, any additional comments?
Yeah, just I guess we could go back and forth all night, but I think looking at the data, the per student funding has declined. We're still trying to come out from the deep reductions during the Pawlenty years. Funding isn't the only answer, and it's not the only thing that needs to change, but it's a really key piece, particularly when we think about responsibility being offloaded onto property taxpayers.
Thank you. Okay, responses for the next one. We'll begin with Justin Stofferahn. The economy has been hit hard by the pandemic. Small businesses and nonprofits are often hurting, and many people are still out of work. Be specific about some ideas you would support to help small businesses, nonprofits, and citizens to better survive the economy the state will be facing for the next few years while keeping people safe.
Yeah, well, it starts with taking the pandemic seriously and addressing the public health impacts because the people in Minnesota take the pandemic seriously. And that's why even before some of the public health interventions in March, you were seeing folks, consumer spending was declining. Folks weren't going to restaurants and that sort of thing. We have to focus, our small businesses are the lifeblood of the economy in Senate District 38 and throughout Minnesota. We have to continue to support them both in the short term. I had been hopeful that the state would pass grant funding a little sooner. The small business groups and organizations that I work with were calling for that early on. And then we also need to, over the long term, reduce barriers, increase access to capital, and also make sure that workers have workplace rights and workplace safety and that they're taken care of as well.
Thank you. And now to Roger.
Yeah, thank you. So before COVID hit, we had a strong economy, $1.5 billion, almost $1.5 billion surplus. We were doing good, and that's on the heels of some tax relief both in 17 and 19. So first, we had to give people confidence and hope that this thing will end and we're going to get out of it and we're going to be safe. We'll do it smartly. They have to have confidence and hope that this will end and we'll be moving forward. You're right, too many small businesses have been destroyed. Dance studios, restaurants, gyms, a lot of small businesses have been hit hard and they don't know if they're going to survive. We have to do what we can. So number one, confidence and hope that we're going to get out of this. And there's a way to get out of this. Secondly, we cannot increase taxes on these businesses that have already been suffering under COVID and riots and et cetera. Thirdly, relieve regulatory burdens where we can and protect them. There's also a liability issue. They're looking for some liability protection in the case of some of the fallout from the COVID stuff.
Thank you. Yes, Justin.
Yeah, just one other thing that I think is important, particularly in the short term, is passing a bonding bill. We have the physical capacity to responsibly pass a large bonding bill and get folks back to work.
I just want to add on to that, Florence. I've been talking to people. I've been to about 10,000 doors, 7,000 doors myself. We've been to about 10,000 doors in the community, and I represent 3 counties and 8 cities. So one person has asked me, 2 people, about getting a bonding bill. Bonding is important. I have nothing against it. But right now, I talked to a couple of people, said they don't have enough labor to build stuff. So there's an interesting problem. But bonding is good. Don't have a problem with it. But it's not going to be the catch-all.
Thank you. Next direction we're taking, and this one will begin with Roger. Ensuring access to affordable health care is critical at any time, but especially critical in the midst of a pandemic. Please share your plans with specifics to ensure all Minnesotans receive the care they need in order to manage the spread and severity of COVID-19.
Well, we did many things to respond to COVID initially. Plus, first, we funded almost $600 million, put out $600 million to help hospitals staff up and get ready for it. Secondly, we not only at the federal level, at the state level, we lifted restrictions and prohibitions and cleared regulatory issues, allowing people to get the care and get COVID coverage, COVID testing, and taken care of without jumping through a million hoops and filling out a lot of paperwork. So a lot of money was spent to help get ready for COVID and manage it, flatten the curve. Secondly, a lot of laws were passed, a lot of executive orders and other laws were passed to take down some barriers, allowing people to get the care they need. As we go forward, there's a lot of things we can do to lower costs, Canadian pricing, using more C&Ps and PAs. There's a lot of things we can do, creative ideas out there.
Thank you. And to Justin.
Yeah, so I think it starts with protecting people's access to coverage, protecting our state's Medicaid program so that the seniors and individuals with disabilities and low-income kids can continue to rely on that care. Opening up Minnesota Care so folks can buy into that as an option. Taking action on prescription drugs. There's been some interesting bipartisan work on pharmacy benefit managers and limiting their market power, and also providing new authority for the state to try and bring down prescription drug prices. And also some innovative things that could be done around hospital pricing. States like Maryland have instituted all-payer systems that help incentivize quality of care as opposed to just the sheer amount, and can also bring down costs.
Yeah, just one quick thing. The pharmacy benefit manager was an amazing problem. It really distorted the system, and that got addressed significantly. Secondly, Minnesota does have the lowest, according to the Kaiser Foundation, lowest premiums. We have done some adjustment on the cost of healthcare, lowest premiums for private payers. So there's more we can do, but I think what COVID is showing us is that we can remove some of the barriers and roadblocks, get people into care quickly, and get people access to quality, affordable healthcare.
Additional comments, Justin?
No.
Okay, the next one will begin with Justin Stofferahn. Okay, people have sent in just interesting questions. Social media has become a popular and influential way for people to communicate, especially now during the pandemic. Please explain your views on using social media to communicate with constituents, to share your ideas, and to be more well-known while still serving all constituents.
Yeah, so I try to use my social media presence to lift up the stories and the people of the Senate district and just all the talented, wonderful folks that are out there. But let's be honest, the reason that this question got asked is because the social media habits of Senator Chamberlain have been making headlines.
But I would ask you to just address your own activities, your own.
Yeah, so I use it to try to communicate when folks ask me questions and want to know about different issues. I get it from all sorts of sides, and it's a great way to. It's not the only way, and it's not the number one way, but it's a way to be able to communicate with constituents and share ideas and share their stories.
Thank you. And to Roger?
Well, it's an interesting topic. Social media can benefit a lot of people, and I contact constituents via email during session. I don't use social media a whole lot, contrary to popular belief. But what I've found is I've been working on it for about 1.5 years is the destructive nature of social media. Center for Humane Tech, a lot of studies, books, that the occurrence of social media and the impact it's having on kids is tremendously horrific. The suicide rates and depression rates among kids are skyrocketing, and it's not good for adults either. We wouldn't give kids keys to the car or the liquor cabinet, but we just say, here you go, here's access to social media. We need to do something to address how social media is used and the impact on kids' brains, mental health, and society as a whole. And Center for Humane Tech has put out a lot of good stuff about that.
Thank you. Additional comments, Justin or Roger?
No.
Just to follow up on my own, what's your favorite? I mean, if you communicate, do you tweet? Do you email? What is your favorite medium?
Well, when I want to get a hold of constituents, email, phone calls, text, and they get hold of me that way as well. That's just, I don't go to Facebook. I don't go to Instagram. I'm not out there. I don't play in those spaces.
Okay, Justin, what's your favorite?
Yeah, well, I think I'd start with the phone, but text and Facebook, I think are sort of the other realms.
Okay. Responses for the next question will begin with Roger Chamberlain. The country has been in turmoil for months, and the election is ratcheting some aspects of this up. This week, we cannot escape the question of white supremacy in this country. Would you condemn white supremacist groups? And do you believe that white supremacy is an issue in Minnesota specifically?
I start with a broad background. I'm a Christian. My faith says love, forgive, humility, joy, peace, service. And that's how I live, how I work, and how I behave and how to conduct myself. Now, yes, racism's a sin. Yeah, it's bad. It's terrible. I would, of course, denounce racism, supremacy, white supremacy, or anything else that claims to be supreme to another person. So, yes, condemn it 100%, because that's not how I live. It's not how we should live. But I think, again, you go back to social media and different things, things get stirred up pretty quick without much. There's a tinderbox out there, and all you got to do is throw a little match in there and it goes. So, yes, it exists. We can't solve all problems. We just have to make sure that we do whatever we can to make sure there's a safe, equitable environment for everybody to live, thrive, and have the same opportunity.
Thank you. And Justin?
Yes, I'd absolutely denounce white supremacy and white supremacist groups. I do think it's an issue, and I think that some of these different groups have been given refuge in social media and online. I think the deterioration of our political rhetoric in general has also allowed some of these groups to feel like they have a more significant place at the table than they should. And we need to do what we can to make sure that folks understand that this sort of content and acting this way is absolutely unacceptable.
Thank you. Any follow-up comments? Okay. Responses for the next one will begin with Justin, and the next one is in a similar vein. A senator is charged with representing all of his constituents, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, or other differences. What would you do to reassure all of your constituents that you can represent their interests in light of the apparent growing acceptance of conspiracy theories and groups like QAnon?
Yeah, so I think that it starts with listening to folks, and regardless of, right, I've had plenty of long conversations throughout the course of this campaign with people that are highly unlikely to vote for me, but that if given the great honor and opportunity to represent them, it will be part of my responsibility to represent them at the Capitol. So it starts with listening to folks and hearing them out on all sides. I think that we need leaders that are ready to follow facts and science. And again, to this social media question, I think some of these conspiracies and other efforts, that's where they sort of grow and fester and create their foothold. And so rejecting that is also part of it.
Thank you. And now to Roger.
So I've been doing it for years, right? I have met with church constituents in North Minneapolis when their representatives wouldn't meet with them. I've gone to listen to Four Black Hands in Minneapolis. I've gone to North High School and listened to them and worked with them. I've gone to a small business entrepreneur trying to get help to kick off his idea in just North Minneapolis on Plymouth Avenue. So I've been doing it for years. Like I said before, in my years doing this, I've been to every community every district, every community and neighborhood in this district. I've knocked on 60,000 doors, give or take, here and then across the state, another odd number of doors. So I've been doing it for years, working with groups to improve educational systems and to end homelessness and create affordable housing, and listen to a lot of people, meeting them a lot of different places.
Thank you. Additional comments, Justin?
Yeah, just a quick one. I've been really honored. In particular, there are some groups that have formed in Hugo, some groups that have formed in the Centennial School District area that are working on these issues of racial equity and racism, sometimes focused on the school district, sometimes focused in communities more at large. And it's been a great pleasure to meet them and hear them out and work with them.
Thank you. Roger, any additional?
Well, I guess just to sum up again, keep doing what we've been doing for years. And I guess I should mention meeting with Hmong businesses, Hmong Chamber of Commerce's, working all across the board with in bipartisan fashion for a lot of things, whether it's TCE or literacy or businesses or homelessness for, affordable housing.
Thank you. Okay, responses for the next question will begin with Roger Chamberlain. State revenues have declined due to COVID, and there are increased COVID-19 related expenses, so that now instead of a surplus, there's a $2 billion budget hole. How do you think the state should deal with this?
It's not going to be easy. The estimate in May, and it was an estimate, I don't know how good it was, is about 10% or $5 billion. It's a huge number. After the Great Recession, we were right around the same number, a little bit higher. So with any luck, businesses will start to generate some more revenue. As I said before, the economy was strong before COVID. The fundamentals were there. And it's been shored up by the feds and some state money. So we will continue to do that, but raising taxes is not an option, like I said before, on all businesses that are already been, businesses and employees already beat up by COVID and riots and other issues. So we have to do whatever we can to build confidence and make sure fraud, waste, and abuse is addressed in this state. There's good programs, good stuff. We need state government, but we're going to have to look for creative ways to be smart with what we do, because we can't raise taxes on these poor individuals and businesses.
Thank you. The same budget question to you, Justin.
Yeah, so certainly no easy decisions, and it's going to be tough, but it's very important, right? 70% plus of state spending is education and health and human services, two really critical areas. I think that we're going to have to take a balanced approach. It's not going to be totally one way or the other. I think that there are we've had the deed commissioner talk about the $600 million that the state spends in business subsidies and incentive programs that often create a lot of crony capitalism. At the same time, we have I've spent chunks of my career working around tax policy. We have a tax code that is just sort of a mess, and I think that there are ways to look at tax reform as a way to close some of these budget holes without creating burdens for small businesses and middle-class families.
Florence, just want to follow up.
Yep.
I would agree. Look, I've been working for years to try to stop some of this. Tax expenditures in this state are huge, right? The credits and exemptions and the subsidies drives me crazy. So, Justin, I'm going to agree with you. The subsidies and these exemptions and expenditures are out of control. I like business, I like free markets, but I don't trust big government. I don't trust big business a lot, and they're always coming with their hands on. We have to be smart about what we do, and it's a problem. It is.
Okay, Justin, any additional?
Well, just to further this area where the senator and I can agree, it's about $18 billion a year that we have in tax expenditures, and not all of those things are terrible, horrible things. As you know, the working family credit is included in that, but there's just a whole that speaks to the sheer complicated nature that the monstrosity that's been built in the tax code.
Okay, thank you. Responses for the next one will begin with Justin Stofferahn. Homelessness and affordable housing are intertwined problems. What steps should the state take to decrease homelessness and increase the availability of affordable housing?
Yeah, so I think that this is a question that gets at both revenue as well as regulatory impacts. I think that there's some regulatory reform that could be implemented to help bring down some of the housing costs. There's also been creative bonding mechanisms used to try to fund more affordable housing. I know I used to work on behalf of rural communities around the state, and they've been looking at creative ways to get at this issue that fits for their communities, and have been looking at sort of flexible streams of funding that whether it be workforce housing or low-income housing, but it's certainly a really pressing issue, particularly for, I know a lot of people my age are facing a lot of barriers to trying to own a home or find affordable housing.
Thank you. And to Roger Chamberlain.
Let me start on a happy note again. Justin, I agree with you on the regulatory piece. There needs to be some regulatory reform. The land costs in this metro area are one of some of the highest in the country. Met Council does some good things, but they do some things that don't help out a whole lot either. I was just talking to a contractor today. Just the price of lumber, because of the market and labor issues, the price of lumber has doubled. Just imagine that. All the lumber going to your house now is twice the cost. So some of the solutions we were looking at in the last couple of years, one is supported by affordable housing coalitions, a couple of them, reforming the 4D a bit, making it more affordable to own these places and pass those savings on to the renters. Secondly, taking a piece of the mortgage and deed tax that is already in existence. It's huge, $120, $150 million each of those buckets, taking some of that and putting it right into an affordable housing bucket, and use those dollars to help create affordable housing.
Okay, now I'm going to throw in one here. This is a little bonus question. Do you support low-income housing in White Bear Lake, or in your district? I guess I should expand it. That would be starting with Roger.
I don't see any problem with it. We want affordable housing in all communities, so there's no problem with that, right? I see homes going up in Blaine, and I'm sure they're at 350, 400, and for 2,500 square feet. So. Yeah, we need affordable housing, and there's ways to do it and get it done.
Okay, Justin?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, I've really enjoyed getting to know some of the new residents of the landings of Lexington in that part of the district. I think that, there are also maybe avenues to work together with local elected officials to remove some of the stigmas sometimes that can, result from low-income housing projects.
Thank you. Additional comments on those two housing questions?
Yeah, just yes. One thing I would add is that I think there's maybe also space for the state to be creative around manufactured housing as well. I know that that was something when I was working with those rural communities that they were looking at, and there's maybe some either both regulatory pieces, maybe some other pieces that can make that more common, because you can get really nice homes. It's not sort of what folks have in mind when they maybe hear that term.
Hey, Florence, can I just add?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point. That's something else. Thanks for reminding me. That's something else we've been working on. Fixing the whether it's modular homes or other manufactured homes and protecting those communities. They are affordable, and they have co-ops they're trying to create, and we can support that. They can stay there, they can afford it, they own it their own. So we're trying to do things to lower the cost of that housing and make sure they can stay there. Thanks for reminding me, Justin.
Okay, thank you.
Anytime, Senator.
Responses for the next one will begin with Justin. This is housing again from a slightly different angle, though. Housing inequalities by race in Minnesota are among the worst in the country. How will you help fix the legacy of redlining, racial covenants, and white flight that have resulted in such a low rate of home ownership by Black Minnesotans?
Yeah, so I think that, again, these questions about affordable housing are key. Minnesota used to be a leader in desegregating housing, and then that sort of reversed over the last 20, 30, 40 years, where a lot of the affordable and low-income housing is concentrated in communities of color, and so it further segregates housing. I also think that making we have a lot of back to that sort of tax expenditure. We have all sorts of tax preferences for folks who already own a home. And what I hear from, again, at least folks my age oftentimes, is that the down payment is where they really struggle. And so creating assistance there is another avenue to that.
Thank you. And to Roger?
Well, it's a broad question, right? A lot of those things are already illegal and prohibited. That doesn't say things don't happen, right? We live in an imperfect world. But it all starts with education and jobs, right? Getting kids and people educated, developing the workforce. And community colleges like Century, right? And others are doing great work working with businesses and the community to match needs and educate and retrain those areas. And they reach to a broad range of people to address workforce and workforce development. Whether you're coming out of prison or you're in high school, a lot of different things to rehab and retrain, or you got laid off and need something else. So there's a lot of pieces to that. Good education, workforce development, smart ideas, retraining people, and creating those jobs in a strong economic environment. And that helps a lot.
Thank you. Either of you have additional comments?
Well, just quickly, there are good programs out there. I've visited many that take men and women from prison and get them their job skills back and education, help them out a lot. So there are good ideas out there, and we have to keep the good ideas and chuck the bad ones. But there's good things out there, and we can keep working on it.
Thank you. Justin? Nope.
Just real quick, just off of some of what the senator said, I think that there's a lot of just in this district, whether it's at Century College or I serve on the White Bear Township Economic Development Board, and getting to meet with folks in the White Bear School District on their Career Pathways program, and other sorts of programs like that prepare folks for the workforce and address. I've heard from manufacturers who, at least prior to COVID, were saying their biggest issue was finding workers, having headhunters looking around for welders and things like that.
Thank you. Responses for the next one begin with Roger Chamberlain. What do changes in policing mean to you when it comes to people with mental illness?
What do changes in policing mean to me when it comes to mental illness?
Right. What would you see happening if that?
Well, part of the reform and accountability package we passed addressed more training and awareness of mental health issues. Some cities have response teams. I have friends who work in Ramsey County, and they wait for these sorts of calls and go deal with either kids or adults that are stressed, mental health issues, right? So integrating those things together, more training for the police officers to the extent we can. We can't require them to be professionals at everything, but where they can't, we augment that with other professionals out there that are ready to act and help. One thing we were talking about years ago that would be a good idea. We don't have a mental health kind of a waiting area, right? Holding area. We used to have them years ago, but we don't have it. We need some place, and we talked about this, and something we could do where we can take people with those challenges and those that need help and get that little thing done instead of just putting them in the prison or holding on to them and sending them somewhere else.
Same question, Justin?
Yeah, so I think, creating some of those diversions, to keep folks out of jail, out of prison is key. I think that, there's Rochester is an example of a city that has utilized social workers alongside law enforcement to be able to handle some of those situations. I know my wife works in child protection, and that's often sort of the model they have there as well, is having social workers work in tandem with law enforcement so that the folks who are trained to handle some of these issues can deal with it. And if they think law enforcement needs to intervene or be a part of that, they can help make that call.
Florence?
Yes.
Justin, you reminded me of something else. So one thing we would help a little bit, right, is the Vets Restorative Act that we have. That would help a little bit because that, as Justin mentioned, keeps people out of prison that don't need to be there because they've suffered some other trauma from other places, and they're not criminals. They just had a bad time.
Okay, Justin, additional comments?
Yeah, I think it just speaks to, some of the broader challenge here is that we have asked law enforcement to take on a whole bunch of responsibilities and deal with a bunch of, societal challenges that it's not fair to dump on their plate and isn't always a part of their training and probably shouldn't be in the first place.
Thank you. Okay, responses for the next question will begin with Justin Stofferahn. And this is a really different one that someone sent in. The state seal of Minnesota, which is also on the state flag, has become a point of contention because it displays Native Americans in a negative and insensitive light. Do you see the seal as a problem? If so, how can we create a symbol for the state which better represents all of the citizens?
Yeah, so I know that I've heard from individuals that find that the seal offensive to them or not truly reflective of sort of the story that actually happened and the true past of the state. I think that this could be a great opportunity to, we're in these very divisive and polarizing times, and bringing the citizens of this state together to develop a new seal for today's Minnesota, which is a very different Minnesota from back when that seal was developed, is I think could be a really great exercise.
Thank you. Roger.
I don't know that I recall hearing about this problem. I guess we'd have to take a look at it. I don't know that it's been mentioned to me. Maybe it has, but I don't recall. So I guess we'd have to take a look at it. Frankly, I should look at the flag closer. I guess I haven't looked at that seal for a while. So I guess that's all I have on it. We could look at it. I'm just not aware of it.
Okay. Justin, any additional? Nope. Okay. Let's see. We've got time for another one. And responses for this one will begin with Roger. Public discourse has become extremely contentious and often disrespectful. Should public officials be held to a higher moral standard than ordinary citizens? A lower one? Any standard at all?
Well, look, I've tried to keep it that way for a long time. But look, folks keep electing. So, yeah, sure. I've tried to keep the conversation above board when at all possible. But I'm not going to point fingers at anybody. But like that starts with all of us, right? People scream at us all day, right? For one reason or another. I get it from the far right. I get it from the far left. You know, they don't like your dog, they don't like your car, they don't like your hair, whatever. But yeah, I mean, sure. I've always tried to function that way. My background, my philosophy in life is to do the best I can. We're only human. We all slip and fall at times, but yeah, it'd be great to have a little more civility, but it starts with all of us, I guess.
Thank you. Justin?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that you know, given the sometimes low opinion of elected officials on either side of the aisle, it can be easy maybe to, you know, get to a place where we think that the words that elected officials and public officials use don't matter as much, but I think they do. They send important signals to the rest of society. You know, yes, there certainly is an element that it's all of us, but I think that you know, there is a responsibility and can be an impact on, you know, creating greater civility when it starts at the top.
Thank you. One last question I think we can sneak in before the closing statements. It's often difficult to balance competing interests, and particularly when you start thinking about the environment versus jobs. So what is your philosophy on trying to balance environmental issues and jobs issues? For example, if, when we look at the mining in the northern part of the state.
Is that for me first? I'm sorry.
Yes, Justin, sorry. Yes, it is.
Okay. Nope, that's okay. Yeah, so on that specific issue, that's sort of where I live at the moment. I work for an organization, as I mentioned earlier, called the Blue-Green Alliance. It's a partnership of environmental and labor organizations working to create win-win solutions that work for the environment and can create good jobs and create economic competitiveness. As I mentioned earlier on those early questions around climate change and the environment, I think that there's really great economic opportunity if we, you know, seize the power of the green and clean energy economies. So there's certainly tough conversations that sometimes have to happen, but you know, those tough conversations happen in that workplace. When I worked on behalf of rural communities around Minnesota, we had very progressive mayors, very conservative mayors, and folks in between. We had to bring them together on around common sense solutions as well. So that's been part of my background.
Thank you. And to Roger.
Yeah, no doubt. I haven't met anybody who wants to wreck the environment. We all want to protect the environment, our natural resources. They're vitally important to our well-being, not just economically, but our mental well-being, right? We used to have a place up north and it was a great respite, right? Beautiful lake, quiet. That's where you go to forget about things and watch the eagles and the turtles, right? It's great stuff. So we can do both. We have to do both. Not only is it important for that part of it, but if we wreck what we have, we become unhealthy and we no longer have an economy. Mother Earth provides a lot to us and we have to take care of it, nurture it, make sure it's protected. And I believe we can do that and have a thriving economy as well. So we can do both, and I'm confident. We just can't go far out, and we don't have to go crazy each side. You know, Blaine bulldozes everything. I shouldn't say this. They might listen. It's a great city. Blaine's wonderful. They build a lot of stuff. But I like open spaces too, and thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This has been an interesting hour. That will conclude our question and answer portion of the forum. Now we'll go to closing statements. They will be in reverse order from the openings, which means that Roger Chamberlain will go first, and you have 1 minute.
Thank you. So again, thank you for doing this, and thanks for holding a civil, controlled discussion. This is probably the most civil, controlled discussion I've been in for years. So thank you for doing that. Secondly, again, I'm humbled and honored to serve the citizens of this district. My record, knocking on all these doors, people are concerned about their safety, they're concerned about the education of their kids, they're concerned about healthcare, the economic future. They want to get back to normal. We can do these things, we can do them smartly. My record shows that I can work across the aisle with a lot of people and get things done, whether it's TCE or literacy and dyslexia or bike trails or taking care of the water issue or tax reductions for Social Security and for middle class. We can do those things. My record shows it. I've worked with a lot of people in a lot of different areas, including education. So we can get it done. Very happy and proud to serve. And my record shows that we've done a great job and we can do more. Thank you very much again for the conversation.
Thank you. Now for the closing statement from Justin Stofferahn.
Yep. Well, I'll echo that. Thank you again for hosting this forum, and congratulations to the senator on becoming Grandpa Roger, maybe.
Roger's fine. Thank you.
This has been running for this office has been an incredibly humbling experience. And, getting to meet people all throughout this district and hear their stories, whether over the phone, in person, through text, email, whatever it's been. This is a really important election for Minnesota and for the direction of our state. And I look forward to being a part of the bold solutions that we need to make sure we're investing in our schools, getting our economy back on track, tackling this pandemic, protecting the environment. And I hope to have that opportunity.
Thank you both. I would like to thank the candidates for taking time out of their busy schedules to participate in this forum, and I hope that the listeners have gleaned a lot of information to consider before voting. Campaigning in the time of COVID-19 must be particularly challenging, and we hope that this forum will help more voters learn the views of the candidates. We also thank the candidates for stepping up to run for office. Our system of representative government only works if there are dedicated people willing to take on the jobs and informed and attentive citizens selecting them. And now I encourage all of you listening to vote between now and November 3rd. Vote early in person, vote from home, go to the polls on November 3rd, but vote. And encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to think carefully about the issues of the day and the people on the ballot and make their choices known. If anyone needs to update their registration, request an absentee ballot, locate an in-person polling place, or track a ballot, go to mnvotes.org. This is part of the website of the Secretary of State's office and has all the answers. Thank you for listening, and good night, and may you stay healthy.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
Take
you.
care.